The night my brother called me over to his Vegas club, I thought it was just another one of his usual casual hangouts. He owned the place, and it was always buzzing with lights, music, and people trying to forget their problems. As I walked in, he greeted me with his usual smirk, poured me a drink and leaned closer. Then he asked the question that froze me inside. "Where's your wife?" I laughed lightly and replied, "She's in, probably at home resting," but the way he looked at me told me there was more behind his words. He wasn't asking out of curiosity. His eyes were sharp, heavy, and carrying something he was struggling to say. I asked him what was wrong, but he only shrugged and poured himself another drink. He wasn't the type to play games with me, but that night, he seemed almost reluctant to reveal what he knew. After a few minutes of silence, he finally muttered, "She's not at home." The words hit me like a brick. My chest tightened and my fingers gripped the glass too hard. "What do you mean she's not at home? You've seen her?" I asked, my voice louder than I wanted. He just nodded slowly, scanning the room like he didn't want anyone else to hear. He gestured toward the VIP section of his club. My heart dropped instantly. I followed his eyes, and there, sitting comfortably on one of the velvet couches, was my wife. She wasn't alone. A man sat beside her, his hand draped casually over her shoulders, leaning in too close for comfort. My stomach twisted, and I felt heat rise in my face. At first, I tried to convince myself it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe it was a friend, maybe a cousin, maybe someone she knew from work. But the way she laughed at his jokes, the way she leaned into him, the way their eyes locked, it was too intimate to be innocent. My brother placed his hand on my shoulder, as if steadying me before I did something reckless. I couldn't just stand there and watch. My legs carried me forward before my brain caught up. As I walked toward the VIP section, my wife's smile faded when she spotted me. She froze in place, her laughter dying instantly. The man beside her looked at me with a smirk, completely unbothered, like he already knew who I was and didn't care. I stood in front of them, trying to control the storm inside me. "So this is where you've been?" I asked, my voice low but sharp. My wife stammered, "It's not what it looks like." But her trembling voice betrayed her guilt. The man only leaned back, smirking even wider as if enjoying the show. The air grew heavier with every passing second. I clenched my fist but reminded myself this wasn't the place to explode. The crowd around us was watching, whispering, waiting for a scene. My brother came over quickly, trying to defuse the situation, but it was too late. The damage was already done. I looked into her eyes one last time and said, "You could have just told me you weren't happy. Instead, you chose this." My words made her tear up, but I felt nothing but emptiness. I turned away before my anger consumed me. Back at the bar, my brother tried to calm me down, telling me to think before making any decisions. But deep inside, I knew my marriage was already over. Trust once broken doesn't glue back together so easily. That night, I packed a bag and left the house we shared. She tried calling, texting, begging me to talk, but I ignored every message. I wasn't ready to listen, not when the image of her with him was burned into my mind. Days turned into weeks, and she eventually stopped trying. I filed for divorce quietly, without drama, without giving her the satisfaction of hearing my pain. My brother stood by me, reminding me that sometimes losing someone who betrays you is actually winning peace. It wasn't easy to let go, but in time I realized he was right. The truth always comes out. And that night in my brother's club was the moment mine did. She was gone, but so was the weight of lies I had unknowingly carried. And in that painful ending, I found the strength to start again.